Hello and welcome to Shipbuilding PLM Insights. This is the second of our series of online sessions about PLM in marine and offshore. My name is Matthias and I am your host today. We at PROSTEP work with companies in manufacturing industries to implement digital continuity and traceability. We help our customers to develop increasingly complex products in an ever-changing business and IT environment. We support you to build the PLM environment that you need to address the challenges of today and tomorrow. Being a vendor-neutral PLM solution provider, we have a deep expert knowledge of PLM, many PDM and CAD systems, and maintain development partnerships with all major vendors on the market. Our background in industries like automotive, aerospace, defense, shipbuilding, and transportation enables us to provide synergies to our customers. Over the years, we worked with many companies in marine and offshore throughout Europe, Asia, the Pacific, and the Americas. We can see how globalization shifts market shares around the world. Changing cost structure, technological progress, and economic development are the driving forces behind this ongoing process. Companies must specialize and become highly efficient to remain competitive. 30 years ago, the then still existing Bremer Vulkan shipyard had a forge shop to make propellers and shafts. Ships at that time only had basic control and automation systems, much of it being made and assembled by the shipyard. Today, ships consist of up to 80% supplied materials, a significant part of it being high-tech systems or specialized services, which in turn led to an increased number of specialized supplier companies from all over the world to make and provide all this. Specialization and globalization are the main drivers of collaboration, followed by flexibility to respond to change requests, time to deliver, and provision of local content. After we shared our insights about interaction of CAD and PDM in our first episode, our today's topic is collaboration. Main collaboration scenarios found in shipbuilding industry today include the sourcing of components, from pump to a main engine, often customized, but also complete systems such as fire extinguishing or integrated bridge and navigation systems, typically project-specific and fit to purpose. Shipyards form a consortium in order to join forces and to be able to deliver larger projects or to share risks. Third-party design is another scenario, ranging from design offices helping out to cut load peaks to large design firms providing a full design package to a shipyard. Build yards abroad allow to provide local content or to benefit from differences in cost structures across countries. And last but not least, the high complexity of ships today leads to more coordination effort and more rules and regulations which require increased collaboration with ship owners and authorities. Collaboration is where PROSTEP started from in 1996, at that time industrializing a neutral data exchange format called STEP. Step-based data exchange is commodity today, but current collaboration scenarios have many more aspects, and we plan to outline this today in our session. With me today is my colleague Lukas. Hello, Lukas. Lukas' background is mechanical engineering. He works with PROSTEP as a PLM consultant since 2016. Before joining PROSTEP, he did his master thesis in a large German electronics manufacturer about implementation of PLM. In the first part of today's topic, he is going to throw some light on the major collaboration scenarios in the ship development process. Lukas, it's your stage.
Thank you, Matthias, and also a warm welcome from me as well. As Matthias said, I want to talk in the first part of this presentation about collaboration or processes that are affected by collaboration, and I want to discuss with you the topic on why collaboration increases complexity. So for the first process that I want to talk about is collaborative design or design in general. So if you are talking about design in shipbuilding, it consists of different disciplines, which are generally speaking some overlooking department that manages the global topics like GAP, ship weight and balancing, a department that focuses on machinery and equipment, a department responsible on steel structure design, a department for electrical and outfitting. Additionally, the design process is often an iterative process in the context of a shipbuilding project, where the departments go from a rough to a more detailed design until they hopefully fix the design in the end. This is already a complex topic, and for quite some time the design work of the shipyard has been more and more handed over to design partners, as Matthias already said beforehand. So this also does happen in other industries. For example, or in our example here, the steel structure and machinery placement is done by the shipyard itself. However, the electrical design is done by a single design partner, and the outfitting design is done in conjunction of the shipyard and multiple different design partners. And being able to work in such a diverse manner and in an efficient way, in a still efficient way, is not easy, and the technical, processual, and organizational solution has to take all the boundary conditions of the project and the affected partners into place. More often than not, there is not the way for collaboration in design, as we have experienced, that fits all partners and all projects. So you always need to add something new to your collaboration solution, but I hope that you get that collaborative design is obviously a lot more complex than design on its own. Moving on, I want to talk a bit about change management. So in every project, challenges and potentials are going to be identified, which will lead to a potential change that has to be discussed. So if the shipyard would be on its own, this would be already not an easy task, and it would still lead to a lot of discussions between the different departments, if it's design departments, as I just talked about, but also if it's departments in the later stage for manufacturing implementation. However, and unfortunately, in quotation marks, there are also partners that have an influence on the change process. So either because they are the ones that are going to identify these potential changes, or they have a stake or at the proposal or the implementation of the change itself. So, and especially in shipbuilding, where we met the customers that we met and their customers itself have a great influence on the final design, changes are very common to affect multiple partners. And this is why change management, as it is a complex topic, is going to be even more complex if we are talking about a collaborative change management. And we think that this is a topic that has a lot of potential in the future of shipbuilding. Moving on to my last example here, I want to talk about the manufacturing integration, which happens obviously after the design and as part of the work preparation. So in this step, the product relevant tasks are going to be planned and documented for the corresponding project. So this is already a huge challenge, as we have these multiple designs and disciplines or design disciplines, and it is already a challenge to do it in my own worlds, to manage all the resources, all the schedules, and so on. So, but it gets even more complicated if we have partners involved. So for example, if we have like a turnkey supplier for HVAC installation, which does the design, the work preparation, and the component manufacturing, as well as the system integration, or if we are working with some kind of supplier that does the electrical system integration. And some questions that you might ask yourself when you're working with such partners is, for example, which capabilities does his machine park have? And you have to take this into consideration into your design or into your work preparation and manufacturing integration. And how am I going to to schedule the integration or the installation of the pre-fitted work from a partner? How am I managing the building locations on my yard if my partners need those? And how do I keep track of the overall status of the project and if the partner is on time, in budget, and in quality? So, and these are just a few example questions that the shipyard has to answer in the context of collaborative manufacturing integration when a partner is involved. So last but not least, or lastly, I want to show you a little slide here which we have, or which I think demonstrates really good how complex a collaboration solution can become. And this is something that we have developed in context of a customer from ours when we talked about his collaboration solution. And if you look at this diagram, there are quite a few boxes here. And we have tried to structure this, and on the top layer we have like the type of partner. And Matthias already told or said about this at the beginning of the presentation, that there are different kinds of collaboration scenarios in shipbuilding. And then there are, for example, partner defining properties. So if I'm talking about an engineering partner, there's obviously a difference between someone that will just deliver a few engineers that help me during load peaks, as in contrast to someone who's doing the whole design of a whole unit or even the whole ship. So there is something to be considered when you are setting up your collaboration solution for your partners. And additionally, there are technical topics and processes that you have to consider when you are talking about your collaboration solution for a specific partner. And this, as we did it for a customer of ours, is kind of a blueprint or a recipe to about the questions that you have to ask during the planning of your collaboration scenario with the individual partner. And as you hopefully can see, this can get complex real fast. And with this, I want to give it back to you, Matthias.
Okay. Thank you, Lukas. So what I understood is collaboration nowadays happens throughout the entire ship development process, from basic design to manufacturing and beyond. Depending on the collaboration partner and topic, different measures must be taken to ensure collaboration really works. By the way, we have opened now our Q&A section. So we are now open it for you. You will find it below the video area in your browser window. Feel free to ask questions. We will take them and try to answer them after the next part of our presentation, where we will see Lukas again. So Lukas, collaboration tends to become a complex issue, especially when we add a bit of dynamics to it, as this is usually the case in today's busy times. Can you give us some guidance on the important topics to consider when setting up a collaboration that we often find overlooked or underestimated when speaking with our customers?
Yeah, sure. And in the second part, I want to talk about 5 things that you might remember the next time that you are talking about collaboration. And these are just quite a few tips that we want to give you on your way with collaboration there. So first of all, we want to, or as it is impossible, to work with each and every one of your partners individually, or to set up a collaboration solution with each and every one of your partners individually, it is important to categorize the different partners. And as Matthias already said in his entrance, there is kind of like a structure or different scenarios where we were heading with this slide as well. And if we are talking about these different kind of scenarios that you are encountering in your shipbuilding projects, the number of partners that you are working with, if it comes to external manufacturers, design office, component suppliers, and so on and so forth, is going to get into the dozens or even hundreds for a single project. So what we have learned is that this is obviously not exclusive to shipbuilding, and this slide is based on VDA recommendations, so it's based on automotive purposes. But obviously, we are allowed to learn from other industries as well. And in our opinion, it helps to understand the broader picture, also for shipbuilding, if you tweak the terms a bit, which we have done here. generally speaking, if we talk about this structure or this hierarchy, a more thorough integration is going to be needed for the partners that are on the upper levels, because you are going to have a more thorough collaboration scenario with those. And therefore, a more customized solution is most of the time needed for these partners. And also, these partners, as they are the stronger ones, they are the ones in a position to demand the special treatment in comparison to the partners on the lower levels. Moving on, I want to talk to you about something that that we have encountered with a lot of our customers that doesn't get the attention that we think it deserves, and that is to consider the life cycle of your collaboration. So the product itself, as you know, has a life cycle, but the collaboration also has a life cycle. And in our opinion, or in our experience, the planning, ramp up, and productive phase is something that is very much focused on by the different partners, but the upgrade and retirement phases is something that is often overlooked. So what we would just like to stress here is, please consider that the life cycle of your collaboration there. Moving on. Okay, there was a short technical difficulty here. At some point in time, and probably at the planning in your collaboration life cycle, you need to ask your technological questions. And this slide is more or less a summary, or how do you say it? A few of these questions that we think that you should ask early in the process. And for example, some questions that we have asked with our customers in terms of technological questions are, how can I keep my solution flexible and scalable? And in terms of flexibility, how can I include additional CAD systems and manage my data across different borders of applications? And CAD stands here representing all the other applications that you work together with your partners as well. How can I keep my data replication high, and how am I able to serve high volume of CAX data, parameters, and structural information? Another questions that we ask a lot when we are setting up collaboration solutions, or we are talking about collaboration solutions, is, does my partner or do I myself need a seamless integration inside my own systems? Or is it enough to just more or less throw over the files over the fence and give it to the partner like on a very rough basic level? Another question would be, do I need to enable concurrent engineering for my partner, or is it even better maybe to work in an asynchronous work environment? Because sometimes the benefit of being able to integrate him directly is not worth the effort that is connected with this. And last but not least, how am I able to, or how can I enable the data transfer to being high volume, robust, and high performance? Again, I can't stress this enough. There is not the solution for each and every partner and project, but these are some questions that we think that you might ask yourself early, as this has a very great impact on the resulting solution that you have here. The fourth topic that I want to talk about a bit is to consider your intellectual property and how can you protect it. So in shipbuilding and every other engineering discipline as well, the intellectual property of a shipyard and its partners as well has to be protected because of competition, and as Matthias said, in globalization, and I mean the competition is getting fierce, as you probably know. And in each and every partner solution or collaboration scenario, you are letting valuable information leave the shipyard and leave the borders of your control. And there's a fine line to be identified between giving just enough information to your partner to work efficiently and reducing the shared information to a minimum, and that is very hard to find, this fine line. And this is something, again, that we want to, that we can't overstress enough, and we wanted to put an emphasis on, because there's a multitude of factors and dimensions that you need to take into consideration when you're talking about what you are willing to share with your partners and how you are willing to share it with your partners. And lastly, I want to talk about something that I have mentioned here and there in the last couple of minutes sometimes, is that the collaboration is not only a technological topic and not only a processual topic, but also an organizational topic. Obviously, there are collaborations where there's one of these topics is more dominant than the other ones, like for example, in a simple part manufacturer, there is not that much organizational and processual needs for the collaboration. But if we're talking about a joint venture or a risk share partner, then you obviously need to have an organization and a process to place. And if you're talking about your own collaboration strategy or you are setting up your collaboration scenarios, then you need to have you need to consider all these three aspects as we've experienced. And these were the 5 things that we are talking a lot about with our partners and customers when it comes to collaboration. And I hope that you might remember this the next time that you are thinking about collaboration solution with one of your partners on your own. So, back to you, Matthias.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lukas, for this nice overview about things to remember when setting up collaboration. So what I learned from your second part of the presentation is there's typically no one-size-fits-all approach if you are talking about collaboration. So it very much depends on the circumstances, on the partners, on the abilities of the partners, how to build a collaboration between them. Mm-hmm. And very importantly, collaboration has a life cycle. So it starts somewhere at some time and it runs over a certain time. It might have a change during this runtime, and at the end it needs to be put back and shut down again in order to disconnect partners that are not supposed to be part of a collaboration anymore. So that's also quite important to think about. It's also very important to think about the technical implications early, because once you've done or built your solution, it's very hard to change technical boundary conditions once they are in place. So that's also very important to consider. And my favorite, of course, is collaboration means information is going to be shared with third parties, so intellectual property protection matters. Yeah. That's very often overlooked, and on the other side, I've seen companies which are very strict on this and apply the so-called need-to-know principle in a very formal way. In summary, collaboration is an extension of business activities across corporate boundaries, and thus an enterprise-level issue. Needs to have the right level of attention. It has an organizational and process and a technical dimension. We are now coming to our Q&A section. So I've seen, or I can see we have one question so far. I'm going to read this and we will see if we get some more questions. So feel free to put your questions in the Q&A section. It's down on your browser screen all the way to the bottom. The question that we got so far is, do you see the engineering stage a single or a multi-solution environment between the parties? And is STEP the exchange format? I thought it's basically a combination of two questions.
Sorry, I didn't quite get the first part there.
Do you see the engineering stage a single or a multi-solution environment between the parties? And is STEP the exchange format?
Thank you to whoever wrote this question. So I think there is obviously, and I think that is going to be the answer for quite a few questions. It depends, to be honest, so there are collaboration scenarios where there is the partners are going to work on the same CAD systems or the same applications as the shipyard or as the other partners as well. But there are also obviously solutions where the partner is not working on the same application level as the shipyard, and even the shipyard itself is not working on the same application level. So I would say that for what we experienced, so for like part manufacturers, like part suppliers and so on, I think the need that the application is going to be the same for the shipyard and the partner is not given, because there is not that deep of an integration needed, and there are not that many iterative steps needed that would propose alignment of applications there. However, if we are talking about design partners, or in our experience, if we are talking about design partners, that is quite common that the shipyard is going to more or less dictate which design system the partner has to use. And this is something as well which the shipyard is taking into consideration when they are choosing a partner. So as I said at the entry, this is something that depends. I think for design partners it is quite common that you have similar tool sets for the design, but for part manufacturers and part suppliers or system suppliers even, it is not that common to have the same, or it is more or less random if you have the same application level or not. And the second question, I think, was about STEP, and I think this would be the case for the second part. We think that STEP has a place, obviously also in shipbuilding and in other industries as well, as a neutral data exchange format. But and obviously we as PROSTEP are glad that it still has a place in all these use cases. However, as times shift and as applications are getting more and more compatible with other formats, like for example JT or IGS, I think, is a standard that is used quite some time. It is not only STEP, but STEP does its work quite well. So STEP works, but it doesn't have to be exclusively STEP.
Okay, so we have another question here. It is about, is there a way to have a remote system where one party provides data, the other one the models, but not each one keeps their? And then I think the question is somehow broken. So I think the sentence is not complete. So if the person from the audience could maybe redo this question, maybe we didn't have enough characters available in our question Q&A section.
Maybe just split it into two questions then, or two comments.
Yeah.
So again, the first part, or the part that we already got, was if there is a possibility to have a partner working on a model but not having it on site or something like that?
Yeah, I think I now understand what this question is all about. So the question is there a way to have a remote system where one party provides data, the other one models, but each one keeps their IP? So it's basically kind of a co-design scenario where both collaborating partners or parties have a specific task to do on the same context or in the same context, and each of which keeps their own IP. Yeah. I think this is what the question is asking for.
Okay, so if we are talking about intellectual property protection, and I think we talked about this, or I talked about this a bit, I was very shipyard focused. But obviously, if we are talking about a solution provider or a system provider that, as Matthias mentioned in his entrance, is doing complex products as well, and obviously has an intellectual property as well that he wants to protect. This goes both ways, and both partners have to take into consideration which kind of measures they are going to take to keep their intellectual property protected. And as you are giving something away from your boundary conditions, I think it is important that you are doing like or what we have experienced is that the partners or the shipyard and its partners are doing like a cleanup of models and are trying to remove the intellectual property that they are providing to the shipyard while still being able to provide enough information to for the partner to work with. So as I said in my intellectual property section, is that there's a fine line, and this has to be made out for both parties or both affected partners when it comes to intellectual property protection. So to answer your question, or I hope that answers your questions, and that the intellectual property protection is done by both sides of the partners or of the collaboration. And if it's two shipyards or a shipyard and a partner, or even two partners like suppliers that work together, it is obviously needed for both sides there.
Yeah, and I would add from my side, it very much depends on the collaboration scenario and on the type of partners that are collaborating. So if you have a component or a system supplier, the requirements with respect to IP protection are different ones compared to, for instance, kind of a co-design scenario where you have a design company helping you to do the design. So they are very often work as an embedded, often also on-site engineer or team of engineers, and then of course it's very difficult to maintain IP protection from their end because they are directly embedded in the shipyard's design process. But if you are a supplier for a main engine, for instance, or for a complete system on the ship, then of course it's up to you, and of course up to negotiation between you and the shipyard what exactly is the quality and detail of information to be delivered. And we very often see and have discussions with our shipyard customers about too fine granular models being sent by suppliers. And
yeah, which will always...
It's not so much that the shipyard is glad to have all these details, because they are not typically go into this business to redo those component manufacturing, but the models are just too heavy, so yes, that they are tending to blow up the databases in the shipyard's design system.
Yeah, we experienced that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more question, or even two more questions. The first one of the two currently remaining is how is a single platform useful for multi-parties for better integration? So how does a single platform, the single design system platform, help in doing a better integration for collaborating parties?
I'm not that sure if a single vendor platform is going to make it that much easier. Obviously, if we have a single platform at the shipyard or at the partner, then we only need to access one data lake or data storage that we have when it comes to collaboration scenarios. So we just need one pool of data that we will access to give the data to the partners. However, as I think that you are going to have an internal collaboration in place, there is going to be, or there should be, like this one pool of data already in place that you can access. And if you are working, for example, in a shipyard that works with Aveva, Catmatic, and Siemens, and this is just an example, and not a real example, then your engineers should somehow access the different data pools or the different the data from the different applications as well. So there should be an access already in place where all of the information done by the different applications is going to be merged, and you can access this. However, obviously it is easier to resolve triggers if you just have one system. But I don't think that the single CAD vendor or single solution vendor to a multi-solution architecture has that much influence on the collaboration scenario, to be honest.
Yeah, and maybe again in addition from my side, so collaboration is very much a matter of trust. Two parties are working together and establish a certain level of trust to each other. Of course, if you have a joint platform you are working in, which technically is no problem today, then the implication is that you leave your partners, or you let your partners into your design platform. And even if there is typically today a function in those software platforms to control access permissions, you cannot really rely on this in each and every case, because as we know, things go wrong. And if you want to be sure, then you should basically somehow see how to separate your concerns. So it's always good for collaboration as a general pattern. And of course, the devil again is in the detail and depends on the type of collaboration. But it's always good to have some third hub type of place where the both or even more parties put their data on that they are using for the collaboration, which is separate from each party's productive internal system. So have something like a hub and spoke architectural pattern. It's always a good idea, whether this is a database or whether this is a file format that is used for exchanging data forth and back. It's another question, and depends on the type of collaboration. But it's always worth to have in mind how much can I trust and how much am I able to control what's going on technically as part or during a collaboration scenario. We have one more question, so it's working well. How realistic do you see a common communication standard like IFC? That's the BIM, that's the data format from BIM, from the architectural industry. And how can we push? So we means we as a shipyard. How can we push this?
Sorry, for first part of the
I can repeat it. So again, maybe two questions in one. Yeah. First part of the question is regarding the BIM and IFC. From architectural industry, how realistic do you see this as a common communication standard? Obviously also being applicable for shipbuilding industry. And second part of the question is how can shipbuilding industry push that this is being used?
Okay. So for the first part of the question is as I understand it, is how is IFC going to affect shipbuilding, and how can it or can it become the standard of data exchange there? And to be honest, I'm not an expert in IFC, but from what I've got and from what I've experienced before is that IFC can become a serious competitor for a data exchange format in shipbuilding, as shipbuilding and BIM modeling or BIM in general is something that we consider quite similar, and obviously other vendors of shipbuilding solutions are also considering quite similar. So on that half of the question, I think that BIM can become it. I don't think that it is at the moment. And on the second part is how can we push it? If you are a shipbuilding company and you want to use it, kind of like just use it more or less, and kind of like try to work with your partners, or try to collaborate or to communicate with your partners that this is your desired exchange standard and that you want to have it like that. However, if you are like a software vendor that wants to push the IFC standard into the shipbuilding industries, then I'm not that sure how you are able to push this. I don't know, Matthias. Do you know?
I agree. Just use it. Ask your software vendors to support the standard, some of them are doing already. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it is IFC or STEP or JT or you name it. Each format has a certain purpose and has a certain capability to be used for. And I haven't seen a data exchange format, doesn't matter which one, that is really serving all purposes of collaboration in shipbuilding. So it's always a question of the case, of the scenario, the requirements of data, quality, data structure, data or details of information to be exchanged, and then this mapped or matched against the available formats, whether and how, to what extent they are supporting it. So there's no, it's not possible to just say IFC will be supporting shipbuilding collaboration. That's not the right answer, because it's not true. But there are definitely scenarios also in shipbuilding where IFC has a good potential and and can play a role, just like STEP can, just like JT can, and the other formats that we are aware of. And at the end of the day, collaboration is not a one-size-fits-all, as we already pointed out earlier. So we are switching a little bit forth and back between the Q&A section and the chat, and there is another question in the chat. So I'm switching back to chat, and the next question is: as an external supplier, I can see quite often that information is cleaned too much to really produce the products based on data, and collaboration is based on drawings. What would be a medicine to transfer the collaboration from documents to data? Your vision about it. So it's the opposite to what we've heard just before, where we said models are too heavy. This is
models are too light, are being reduced to a bare minimum that is not sufficient anymore. Obviously, first of all, talk with your shipyard partner that the models are not sufficient. So, I mean, the collaboration is also all about communication, I think. And if there's issues with the collaboration, and then you need to, if you're considering the life cycle that we talked about, upgrade your collaboration solution and maybe check if you can keep your, or if you can make the your collaboration partner aware that the information that you're getting from him is not sufficient for you to work efficiently. Or to work at all. And this is something obviously that you have to communicate. On the other hand, I think there was also a two-part question, more or less, right?
The question was, what can I do against
how can we push model-based, or can we go from
what could be done to improve? Well, that's basically the second half of the question.
Then I would just say communicate with your partner, and if he has any concerns regarding intellectual property protection stuff, because I mean he's obviously not reducing the data model or the data that he's giving you just for fun and just because he likes to do it, and maybe he can switch some parameters, and if you're talking with him, then maybe he can adjust his data cleanup a bit so that it works for you. But obviously this is a special case, and you have to look into it, and maybe the shipyard is saying, okay, for all of our partners, we are doing the same cleanup, and it works for 90%, but for 10% not. Then we are again in the section where we are not at the one-size-fits-all collaboration solution. And I think, as I said, just communicate it and try to get into the mindset of your partner and talk with him how you can improve it. But, yeah.
Okay, so again, short comment from my side. You were talking about the thin line between providing too few or too many or too much information, and it's about to find
it's
that
a balancing act.
It's about to find that balance, it's definitely not a technical solution. So just sending data, being it on drawings or being it model based, just sending data is not the solution. And just sending data in a certain format is not the solution, because it's just a technical part of it. And in this specific respect, I would say it's about the two companies who are supposed to work together talking to each other and discussing and agreeing on, maybe even on a contractual basis, agreeing on the data to be provided from one party to the other as part of the collaboration in order to make it happen, right? So that's basically the thing about it. Explain to your opposite party that you are collaborating with what are your data requirements and why do you need this information, and agree with them that they provide the information that you need. Otherwise, collaboration doesn't work. Well.
Okay. I'm not sure if we are looking at the time.
Yeah, I think we have to close this session now. We will take all those. There's another question coming here, but I think we would take those questions offline afterwards, and they will not get lost. But please keep in mind that we have questions in the chat and in the Q&A, so that we don't lose them. So just to remember. So in the respect of the ongoing time, I would propose that we are continuing with our program of our episode.
Thank you very much for the questions.
Thank you very much for these many questions again. So it was very good already in the first episode, and again it is very good forth and back, and looks like people are interested in the topic. Very much appreciate this. So we are now at the end of our session. Would like to ask you again, like we did in the first episode, to help shaping the content of the next episode of Shipbuilding PLM Insights. For this, again, we have 3 proposals for you to choose from. You should be able to see the 3 proposals now. The first one is about PDM ERP integration and provision of data into downstream processes. This is basically the first proposal that we have. So if you are interested in providing or in learning about providing design information into downstream processes, including manufacturing or material purchasing, then A is your choice. The second one is about digital class approval. In this, we would like to speak about trends in turning drawing-based class approval into model-based class approval, and there are some initiatives going on already for quite some years, and we are involved in those, and we've seen several of them, and we are able to give a good summary about what's going on there at the moment. So if this is for you, then your choice is B. And the third topic is master data management. It's a dry thing, but it's a very important thing, how to ensure that fundamental business information is correct and consistent. So if this is something that you would like to hear about in our third episode of Shipbuilding PLM Insights, then C is your choice. All 3 are related to the continuity and traceability of data, which becomes more and more important in times of increasing digitalization. So please make your choice. The poll is open, and we are waiting for your response. Is over. So how can we see the results? So far I cannot.
Probably a bit delay in the stream here.
Ergebnis anzeigen. Here we go. Aha, okay, so now we go. We have a clear winner from our morning session of episode 2. The winner here is option A, PDM ERP integration, which is of interest for 60% of the participants, followed by master data, 30%, and digital class approval, 10%. So from our first session today, we can take that next time, episode 3 might be about PDM ERP integration. But again, keep in mind, we do an afternoon session as well, and again. And so there might be another balance of responses, and we will basically consolidate the entire feedback and will inform you afterwards about the result of what people would like to see. Thank you. We are now coming to the end of our second episode of Shipbuilding PLM Insights. Thank you very much again for your interest and for your active participation. I'm very impressed from the interaction that we have with you. So all the questions, very good questions, and so many, very appreciated, and thank you for this. We would be happy if you were able to take away some ideas for your current and future PLM activities. Thank you also to Lukas for his good presentations as today's speaker.
It was a pleasure.
And of course, thanks again to our team behind the scenes. You can't see them, we do, to make this all possible. We hope you enjoyed the session. We definitely did. If so, please share it with your colleagues and partners and friends. All the best. Stay safe and healthy. My name is Matthias, and I'm looking forward to see you soon again in the next episode of Shipbuilding PLM Insights. Take care and goodbye.